All right, let's dive right in to this week's deep dive. It's December 1941.
Oh boy.
The world is holding its breath. Japan's just attacked Pearl Harbor,
Right.
and all eyes are on Hitler. Will he declare war on America too?
Yeah, talk about a historical turning point.
It's a moment of incredible tension. To really grasp the weight of that decision, though, I think we have to rewind the clock a bit, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the destinies of these two leaders, Hitler and FDR,
Yeah.
they were intertwined long before they even came to power. You can't understand one without the other.
It's like a historical thriller,
Exactly.
except this one is all too real.
All too real, yeah.
And you know what really struck me going into this?
Yeah.
Just how obsessed Hitler was with America.
Mm-hmm.
Even back in the 1920s, it wasn't just some passing thought for him. America was central to his entire worldview.
That's right. I mean, to Hitler, the United States represented, I think, everything he wanted Germany to become,
Okay.
but also everything he feared. He saw America's industrial might, its growing influence, and it fueled both his ambition and his resentment.
So let's unpack that a bit.
Yeah.
What specifically about America was he reacting to? Was it purely the economic power, or was there something more?
Well, you got to remember, he saw firsthand the impact of American intervention in World War I.
Oh, right.
He was a soldier on the Western Front, saw American resources tip the balance of power.
Yeah, that left a deep impression on him for sure.
Deep impression, yeah. But it wasn't just admiration, though, right? There was also this element of envy, this resentment.
Uh.
Like, he was deeply bothered by the fact that so many Germans were emigrating to the United States,
Right.
contributing to American power instead of staying to build up Germany.
Yep.
It really got under his skin.
So it was more than just about economics then. It
Right.
was about national identity.
Yeah.
Feeling threatened by the appeal of America, right?
Precisely. And then, of course, you layer on top of that
Yeah.
his incredibly twisted views on race, on anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
He looked at New York, in particular, as like a hotbed of Jewish financial power, a symbol of everything he despised.
Wow.
It all got wrapped up together.
It's chilling how all these prejudices became intertwined with his perception of America.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just a geopolitical rival. It was like a manifestation of his deepest fears and hatreds.
That's exactly right. And you know, it's a prime example of how a leader's personal biases can distort their understanding of the world,
Absolutely.
can lead to absolute disastrous consequences.
Now, while all this is going on,
Yeah.
Hitler's stewing over all this. What's FDR focusing on in those early years?
Well, it's the Great Depression, right?
It is, yeah.
While Hitler was consolidating power, building up the Nazi war machine, FDR is battling this unprecedented economic crisis.
Right.
I mean, his primary focus had to be domestic. He had to pull America out of the Depression.
Yeah, restore hope to millions of Americans.
Millions of struggling Americans, yeah. It was a huge undertaking.
Yeah. But even with all that going on at home, he still had one eye on the international scene. He understood the threat that Hitler posed, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can see it in his speeches, in the diplomatic maneuvers from that period.
Right.
He was a student of history, and he recognized those dangerous patterns of German militarism.
So he wasn't naive about what was happening,
No, not at all.
even if he couldn't directly confront it yet.
He had to be careful. American public opinion at the time was very isolationist,
Right, wary of another foreign conflict.
especially after World War I, yeah.
So how did he navigate that tension, Reed?
Well,
Knowing that a threat is looming but not being able to address it?
well, he started laying the groundwork, you know? Speaking out against the spread of aggression,
Okay.
use these metaphors like quarantining aggressor nations,
Oh, interesting.
trying to, you know, appeal to the public's anxieties about disease and contagion.
Interesting. So he's trying to frame this in a way that resonates
It's
without directly calling for war.
Exactly, yeah. And the prime example of this is his quarantine speech,
Right.
1937. It was a bold move
Yeah.
to push back against Hitler's growing power, but in a way that didn't completely alienate the American public.
And how did Hitler react to that?
Publicly, he ridiculed it,
Okay.
held rallies, mocked FDR, downplayed the idea of American intervention,
Huh.
but privately, sources suggest he was obsessed with FDR, saw him as a serious obstacle to his ambitions.
So this public posturing, but behind the scenes, real tension building.
Absolutely. And that tension only escalated as Hitler started making bolder moves.
Like what specifically?
Well, the annexation of Austria, then the invasion of Czechoslovakia, he's pushing the boundaries,
Wow.
seeing how far he could go without provoking a major response.
And all the while, FDR's trying to walk this tightrope, right?
Mhm.
Preparing for the possibility of war, but keeping America out of direct conflict.
It was a delicate balancing act.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, everything changes in 1940 with the fall of France.
Right, that must have been a wake-up call for America.
Oh, yeah.
The threat of a Nazi-dominated Europe suddenly felt very real.
It shattered any illusion that America could stay isolated.
Yeah.
Public opinion started to shift. FDR could ramp up support for the Allies.
So this is where we see things like the Lend-Lease program come in,
Exactly right.
providing aid to Britain, other countries fighting against the Nazis.
It was a way to contribute without officially declaring war.
Right, a middle ground.
The middle ground, yeah.
And then we have that fateful December in 1941, world's on edge, and then bam, Pearl Harbor.
Changes everything. America's thrust into a war it desperately tried to avoid.
And Hitler's watching this unfold, I bet, with great interest.
Oh, yeah. Calculating his next move.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what this all means. But here's the thing. The attack on Pearl Harbor,
Yeah.
it wasn't part of some grand, coordinated Axis plan.
Really? So Hitler didn't know about Japan's plan.
Nope. Japanese kept their intentions totally secret, even from their German allies.
Wow. So that created a dilemma for Hitler,
Huge dilemma.
because his pact with Japan
Right.
obligated him to declare war only if Japan was attacked, not if they were the aggressor.
Exactly.
So he had a choice.
Mm.
Honor the pact.
Right.
Declare war on a nation that's got a very angry America's full attention.
Yep.
Or stay out of it. Risk alienating Japan.
And what does he do?
What does he do?
He chooses to declare war.
He declared war on America, even though Japan struck first.
I know, right? Seems like a colossal miscalculation.
It does.
But to understand why he did it, you have to consider his mindset.
Okay.
At the time, he viewed America as weak, decadent, divided. He honestly believed their entry into the war would be half-hearted at best.
So it wasn't just a strategic decision.
No.
It was fueled by his own prejudices.
Oh, absolutely.
Underestimations of America.
Totally. He fundamentally misread the situation. He misread the resolve of the American people.
Wow.
He thought, I can knock Britain and the Soviet Union out of the war before America can fully mobilize,
Right?
and then I'm in a stronger position to negotiate.
It's amazing how much his own beliefs shaped his decisions.
Right. It just goes to show you. Even leaders with immense power,
Yeah.
still human beings with flaws and blind spots.
And those flaws
Oh, yeah.
can have devastating consequences.
Absolutely devastating. So the war rages on. America's now fully involved.
Right.
Hitler and FDR leading their nations through this incredibly challenging period.
I imagine it took a toll on both of them.
Immense toll. You can see it, in the photos from that time, accounts from that time.
Yeah.
FDR, who was already dealing with the physical challenges of polio,
Right.
he looks increasingly frail as the war drags on.
Yeah.
The weight of his decisions, the constant pressure, it clearly took a toll, physically and mentally.
What about Hitler? How did it affect him?
Oh, definitely. He became more isolated, more paranoid.
Right.
The charisma, the energy that he had seemed to dim as the war turned against him. The stress of leading a nation, through such a devastating conflict. Coupled with his own erratic behavior, it led to a really marked decline.
It's like the war acted as this magnifying glass on their personalities.
I like that.
FDR, became even more focused on diplomacy, building alliances,
Right.
while Hitler retreated further into his own twisted worldview.
Consumed by paranoia,
Right.
suspicion. That's a great way to put it.
And this difference in their leadership
Yeah,
is also reflected in how they viewed America's role in the war, right?
for sure.
For FDR, it was about defending democracy,
Right.
working together to defeat a common enemy.
Yeah, the greater good.
But for Hitler, it was more personal.
Oh, without a doubt. He couldn't separate his hatred of Jews from his hatred of America.
Right.
In his mind, they were intertwined, part of this global conspiracy he was so obsessed with.
Yeah.
Even in his final days as Germany was collapsing,
Yeah.
he clung to those beliefs. It's really tragic.
It is.
because he couldn't let go of those prejudices, even in defeat.
Right. And his suicide note.
Oh, it's a testament to that. Blames the war on international Jewry, refused to take responsibility for the devastation he unleashed.
Wow.
Chilling reminder of how fanaticism can warp someone's view of reality.
Yeah. So after all this, after leading their nations through this tumultuous period,
Yeah.
did they ever actually meet? Did FDR ever look Hitler in the eye.
They never met face to face.
Right.
All their interactions were through speeches, diplomatic maneuvers,
Yeah.
and ultimately the battlefield.
Hard to believe considering how their lives were intertwined.
I know, right? Makes you wonder, what if they had met?
Yeah.
Could they have found common ground? Or were they just too different?
Right.
It's a fascinating thought experiment.
It is.
But ultimately, their rivalry went beyond personal animosity. It was a clash of ideologies, visions for the future, and the outcome of that clash would have, well, profound consequences.
A lot to take in.
It is.
We've covered Hitler's early obsession with America, the rising tensions, Pearl Harbor,
Right.
the war's impact, their final moments.
It's incredible.
It is, yeah. To think that two individuals could have such a monumental impact on the world.
It really underscores that history isn't just a series of events.
Yeah.
It's driven by people, their choices, their beliefs, their flaws.
But before we wrap up their stories,
Yeah.
we have to consider the legacy of their rivalry,
Okay.
the lasting impact it had on the world. It's amazing to think about the scale of it all,
It is, yeah.
We've talked about Hitler and FDR, their decisions, their leadership.
Right.
But what about the everyday people caught in the middle of this? How do they experience the war?
That's a great question. History isn't just about the big names and grand strategies, right?
Right.
It's also about the lived experiences of ordinary people.
Yeah.
And during World War II, people on both sides were bombarded with propaganda.
Right.
Newsreels, radio broadcasts, all designed to shape their views.
It was a war of information.
Exactly. A fight for hearts and minds.
So it wasn't just bombs and battles.
No, not at all.
Wow. It was this whole other layer of trying to control the narrative.
Absolutely. And it makes it even more fascinating
Yeah.
to try and understand those individual perspectives. What did a German family think when they heard Hitler's promises?
All right.
Or how did an American factory worker grapple with rationing, with the fear of sending their sons off to war?
It's like trying to piece together this giant mosaic.
It is, yeah.
With each story adding another layer
Exactly.
of complexity to our understanding.
And those stories, those personal stories, they're so powerful.
They are.
Because they remind us that behind the grand narratives, there are real human beings with hopes and dreams, fears.
Yeah.
Their experiences help us connect with the past.
On a deeper level.
Absolutely, on a much deeper level.
So stepping back from those individual experiences,
Yeah.
what about the broader legacy of this rivalry?
Yeah.
How did the clash between Hitler and FDR shape the world we live in today?
Well, the ripple effects are still felt. World War II led to the formation of the United Nations, an attempt to prevent future global conflicts.
Yeah. It ushered in the atomic age too, right?
Right, with all its terrifying potential.
Yeah.
And it totally reshaped the geopolitical landscape. It led to the Cold War.
Right, between the U.S. and the Soviet Union.
A rivalry that would define the latter half of the 20th century.
Yeah. The war also had a profound impact, I think, on social and economic structures. Right?
Oh, absolutely. It accelerated technological advancements. It shifted global power dynamics.
Yeah.
Contributed to major social changes like the civil rights movement. The list goes on.
It's amazing to think about how much stemmed from this one conflict, this clash of ideologies, personalities.
It highlights how interconnected history is, how events from the past continue to shape our present and future.
So after this deep dive into this rivalry,
Yeah.
its origins, its consequences, and legacy, what's the takeaway for our listeners? Why should they care about these events from decades ago?
Well, because history isn't just something that happened in the past, right?
Right.
It shapes who we are, how we see the world.
The choices we make.
Exactly. By studying the past, grappling with its complexities,
Yeah.
we can gain valuable insights that can inform our present and our future.
It's like that saying, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it.
Exactly.
But it's not just about avoiding past mistakes, is it?
No, it's also about learning from moments of courage,
Resilience.
hope. World War II, it was a dark chapter,
For sure.
but it also produced incredible stories of bravery.
Sacrifice.
Yeah, of the triumph of the human spirit.
And those stories can inspire us,
Yeah.
challenge us, and help us build a better world.
By understanding those motivations,
Yeah.
the decisions of leaders like Hitler, FDR, the struggles and the triumphs of those who lived through it,
Yeah.
we can gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of our world
Right.
and the importance of making informed choices. And ultimately,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, isn't it?
It is. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the intertwined lives of Hitler and FDR. We hope it's left you with a renewed appreciation for the power of history, the impact of individual choices, and the importance of understanding the past to shape a better future.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, there's always more to discover, more stories to uncover, more insights to gain.
Keep exploring.
Until next time, keep diving deep.